Good morning, everyone. This is your 1-minute warning. We start in 1 minute. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go.
Good morning, Brother Gord.
0. I'm losing my voice here. Italian. Buongiorno. I'll use up all my Italian in 2 minutes. Ti amo. Capisci? Bom dia. There we go. You want it in Brazilian Portuguese or European Portuguese?
Portuguese.
Okay. We'll stick with bom dia. Buongiorno. There we go. Some Italian. Jumbo. Habari sana. Hey, we can go all day. We're going to do a bit of that today, actually. So let's get into the class today. As usual, there's a chapter there under the title, 1 Corinthians 14. No quiz today, but get those gears turning. Think about what 1 Corinthians 14 is about and why a linguist would ever use that as a chapter that they're interested in. And we'll go from there. All right, so not all things are helpful. I had a little bit of a negative twist on this topic for some reason, but there you go. So, a reminder of our thinking verse. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And there is our graphic for the week. Think. And today we're on H. Is it helpful? So let's pray. I'm just going to move this a little closer here. And you're allowed to keep your eyes open if you want. So let's pray. Fader ur thutho hjärtan hilf honom, så den nama helgod, to become in rutje, ge fortha sin villa, an hjärtan svaswa an hilf honom. Orne jeda klimken, laaf sule us to dig, and forgive us ur giltas, swaswa we forgive us urum giltendum. En no helad du osun konstnunge ag alusus of ufele, so lise. All right. How helpful was that? Did you understand? Okay. Question number 1. What prayer was that? Good job. Question number 2. What language was that? I heard it here. Heard it?
Old English.
That was Old English. Good job. So I was praying in English. That was English. All right. All right. Exactly. So you see where we're going with this? Now, I have heard a lot of people use this phrase, Old English. And what do you think they might be thinking is written in Old English? The King James Version of the Bible. Now I'm going to ask you a simple question. Is the King James Version written in Old English? No. Not even close. All right, let's take a look at what I just did here. Oh, did I move along? There we go. That's the Lord's Prayer in Old English. So do you want me to go through it word by word? And you can look at it. You can see there's some words that when you see them, might be a little bit easier to recognize because the written system is a lot more conservative than the oral version of it, and my pronunciation is terrible. I really flubbed some words there. I practice and I practice and I practice, and it's still hard to get through. The worst one is that really long word in the middle there. See that? Dag Hamlikan, which means daily. The modern English is a lot easier. Just a couple of interesting things. You notice that Yeda Hamlikan has HW in the middle of it. And I noticed Peter, when he was speaking, has a little bit of HW still. It's almost gone from the language. You know, there's some words that start with WH and some that start with W, and they form these homophones like whether and weather, which don't actually, in traditional English, sound the same. You can tell me which one I'm saying. Is it the grammatical word or the word that has to do with the conditions outside? Which one am I saying? Whether. That's the grammar word, right? The other one is weather. Whether and weather. And in Old English, the H was always written before the W because it's pronounced before the W. Right? Why, what, where. And I noticed in his class, Peter, he was saying why over and over again. He said, why. And when he was emphasizing it, he added that H before the W. My mom did that all the time, and she was mad at us. What are you doing? But it is very much disappearing from the language. And of course, schools actually are one of the parts of why it disappears, because they teach, well, whether and which, or whether and weather, and which sound the same. Well, classically, they didn't. They sounded different. But a long time ago, they switched the order, and they started writing the H after the W. You'll notice the next word, cloth. What do you think that means? It comes right after the word daily. Bread, cloth, which gives rise to what modern English word? Loaf, right. And there's the H, cloth, but also was dropped before L. So we had a lot of H's before other letters, and they just got dropped eventually. It took a long time. I mean, Old English, this is from about 800 AD, and now, of course, we're in 2026, so that's 1,200 years later, and we're finally losing that H from the W's. And we lost it from the L's a long time ago. Anyways, let's move on to 1 Corinthians 14. Now, you should have been expecting this. So we're going to read a section from 1 Corinthians 14, and that applies to exactly what I did, and you'll see that what I did was completely inappropriate and wrong, right? Except that I knew y'all knew what I was saying, right? It says, for if I pray in a tongue, my spirit prays, but my mind is unfruitful. What am I to do? I will pray with my spirit, but I will pray with my mind also. I will sing praise with my spirit, but I will sing with my mind also. Otherwise, if you give thanks with your spirit, how can anyone in the position of an outsider say amen to your thanksgiving when he does not know what you are saying? For you may be giving thanks well enough, but the other person is not being built up. Now, I want to focus for this week especially on one word from that, and thank you to Chris for his, where did he go? There he is, for his introduction there. It says, otherwise, if you give thanks with your spirit, how can anyone in the position of an outsider, all right? Someone who is a stranger and alien to our community, how are they built up if they don't understand what we're saying, all right? So, let's take a little look at the history of English. So the Old English period goes back up to about 995 AD, so that's a while ago. But actually for languages, it's very young, right? Ask someone who speaks Farsi how old their language is. It's really old. It's considered to be maybe the oldest extant language. It's continuously like where it's to some degree, someone who speaks Persian today could understand some Persian that was spoken like 2,000 years before Christ. I mean, it goes way back. Middle English, that period, it goes up to about, actually what I have here is some, the dates are actually connected to translations of the Bible into English. There's this big thing going around about the English Bible 500 years. English Bible goes way back before that. We talked a little bit about that the other day, right? So 995, that's when you get some of the stuff that was written in Old English. What was his name? Now I can't remember his name. That great King Alfred the Great did a lot of work in Old English. Middle English, you get Wycliffe. And Middle English, we'll look at some Middle English, it's quite different. Early Modern English, that's King James Version, 1611. So that's what we're talking. Early Modern English is the time period that the King James Version is from. And then we get Contemporary English today, or present day English it's called. All right, so 1 Corinthians 10, going back a few chapters in 1 Corinthians, it says, all things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. So that's the King James Version, but let's take a look at that in English. ESV, all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful, but not all things build up. And it adds a couple helpful things, literally, to that verse in more modern English. It uses the word helpful, which I liked. And also it puts the other, all things are lawful, into quotation marks, helping us understand the way that that's intended, that he's not saying all things are lawful. He's quoting this idea, not necessarily from the Old Testament, but from the traditions of the Jews. All things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful, but not all things build up. And there's that same word build up that he used in chapter 14 when he's explaining some things that are not helpful, like speaking in a way that nobody in your audience has any idea what you're talking about. Not very helpful. All right. So we go back to 1 Corinthians 14. And it says there, now, brothers, if I come to you speaking in tongues, how will I benefit you unless I bring you some revelation or knowledge or prophecy or teaching? If even lifeless instruments, such as the flute or the harp, do not give distinct notes, how will anyone know what is played? And if the bugle gives an indistinct sound, who will get ready for battle? So with yourselves, if with your tongue you utter speech that is not intelligible, how will anyone know what is said? For you will be speaking into the air. And we want to go back to this concept of the stranger among us, right? The interested friend. And when they're in our group, do they have any idea what we're talking about? And what lengths are we going to take care of this issue? What are we doing about it? How are we being helpful to them, right? Or do we want them to literally suffer words of exhortation, right? Are they getting anything out of anything that we're doing or saying? What are we doing to make them feel at home and comfortable? How are we welcoming them into our group? Are we doing it by speaking in unintelligible tongues? All right, so he continues. Do I have? Yeah, okay, this is just the rest of that section from verses 6 to 12. There are doubtless many different languages in the world. We just did that, really. It just played right into exactly what I want to talk about. 55 countries? How many different languages do you think you came into contact in those 55 countries?
Well, if I just go to Queens, New York.
Exactly. So we are constantly surrounded by people that speak different languages. And here, way back in the first century, Paul is already talking about that issue. And one of the very first miracles that was done post-resurrection was at Pentecost with speaking in tongues. And the impact that had was tremendous. A big issue then, how much more now? But if I do not know the meaning of the language, I will be a foreigner. There's another word from our verse, right? To the speaker, and the speaker a foreigner to me. So with yourselves, since you are eager for manifestation of the Spirit, strive to excel in building up the church. Again, there's that emphasis on building up. And we're going to talk a lot about that this evening, the contrast between building up and a confusion of language. And then really specific to what I did this morning, and when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. And we're going to focus on one word in prayer this morning that we can use. And not even ourselves really know what it means. I don't know why I keep clicking. I got a mouse up here. All right, so let's look at the King James Version of the Lord's Prayer. So this is the early modern English version of what I just said in Old English. And it's actually interesting, some of the language here. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And this is my tired prayer. I guess late at night I'll say a prayer. Okay, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be thinking about what I'm saying. And I just immediately start reciting the King James Version, right? Just automatically. It's like, oh, I don't even know what I'm saying. It's fun. This phrase, hallowed be thy name, I actually studied in school. And we had a little thing, and it was fun. We had to find a partner, and I went to a secular school, just to clarify. We had to find a partner, and so I picked this guy. I thought he'd be a good partner. He was an Orthodox Jew, skull cap and everything, right? He had the locks. Yeah, he was in every way Orthodox. Well, on the outside. So we got together, and one of the questions we had to ask each other was, what language do you pray in? That was the question. And I was really happy I got to say English, middle, early modern. And then I asked him, what language do you pray in? He goes, I don't pray, I'm an atheist. All right. That was interesting. Really nice guy. Shocking. Anyways, we talked about this, hallowed be thy name, and what does it even mean, and how many modern versions still use this expression, hallowed be, and no one even knows what it means. People say this, hallowed be thy great and holy name. You're just repeating yourself. How can you hallow a holy name? It's already holy if you're it just doesn't make sense to say that. Just say hallowed be thy name. Don't add the extra words. It doesn't actually make any sense. All right, let's look at some of the language in here. Look what happens when you modernize it. Our Father in heaven. Well, in fact, our Father which art in heaven is bad English in modern English, because we only use which for objects. We don't use which for people in modern English. It's one of the first things I teach my international students, right? It's that or who, not which. Right. And here we have in the King James Version, our Father which. Well, that's dropped in the modern version, our Father in heaven. And then hallowed be is still there, because no one knows how else to translate that. And then it changes it to your name, which is, again, the way we speak in English today. So, is it helpful to you, the King James Version, is it helpful to you? Did you grow up speaking King James Version English? All right? A lot of us are very, very used to the King James Version because we did grow up where there wasn't a lot of other options available. You go to the Bible bookstore and there's 9 out of 10 are King James Version. And if you're a kid, one of the things you want to do is wear all the same clothes that all of your friends are wearing, wear the same shoes, do all the same things, have the same Bible case, and of course the same translation of the Bible. Nobody wants to be weird. Is English your first language? All right, imagine if it's not. How does American, is American your first language? And when you learned the Lord's Prayer, who recited the Lord's Prayer every day in school when they were growing up? Which one did you recite? Was it the King James Version? Most likely. Was there another kind back then? Yeah, it was King James, good enough for Paul, good enough for Jesus, good enough for me, right? All right. Did you first learn the Lord's Prayer in early modern English? Probably, right? Probably you did. All right, so let's look at this. Our Father which art in heaven. I'm going to pick on another word in here. This one's fun. I'm going to tell you a little joke, a little story. It's more of a story than a joke, about a little kid that was learning English, and he had a test. And the test was he had to write a sentence using the word pregnant. So that's fine. He looked it up in his dictionary, and he wrote a perfectly good sentence using the word pregnant. The firemen came down the ladder pregnant. The fireman came down the ladder pregnant. And, whoa, that's not right. He said, yes, it is. Look it up in the dictionary. Look up in the dictionary. What is pregnant? Carrying a child. So the fireman came down the ladder carrying a child. Perfectly good use of the term. So let's pick on one word here. We'll look it up in the dictionary and find out what it means, okay? Everyone know what word I'm going to go? Art. The quality, production, expression, or realm of things that conform to accepted aesthetic principles of beauty, show, imagination, and skill, and have more than ordinary meaning and importance. As an English teacher, I tell my students, don't look words up in dictionaries. Don't waste your time. There's another far better way of learning what a word means, a lot faster and a lot easier. Number 2, the class of objects that meet or are subject to aesthetic criteria. Objects considered beautiful, imaginative, skillful, and meaningful collectively, such as paintings, sculptures, or drawings. Maybe finally at the last 3 or 4 words there, they start to understand what this word means. But that does not help them at all understand which art in heaven means. Art in heaven. All right, well, this is how I get my students to learn what words mean. Look at pictures. That's how children learn to read, picture books. That's how adults should learn to read, right? And I go through this little process with them. I say, you know, what did you read from? Whatever language that they grew up speaking, it's always the same, picture books. Everyone learned from picture books. I say, you remember when you were about 9 or 10 years old and a parent or a teacher said to you, no more picture books, and they gave you a book with no pictures in it? How did you feel? And every one of them says the same thing. I know. And what is the first thing you do when you're handed that first chapter book with no pictures in it? Everyone did the same thing, right? What'd you do? You went looking for pictures. Right? We all do it because we all love pictures. We all learn from pictures. And maybe this is what you think art means in Our Father which art in heaven. I tried to find an appropriate looking picture for that. All right. Or Our Father in heaven. No which, no art. Just straight up regular English. Everyone understands this. Our Father in heaven. It's beautiful, elegant, simple, and in our dialect of English, which not just for us, and not just for our kids, but for people in our community that did not grow up speaking English. And how many people here have worked with contacts, interested friends whose first language was not English? Right, the majority of people. It's constant, common, normal, and growth. All right, and then we get hallowed be thy name. What word am I going to pick on here? Thy, thou, thee. So let's learn a bit about this word, because we don't know much about it. I know I've asked people. All right, so I just made a little chart here, modern English, first, second, third person, singular, plural. I feel like I'm at work. So in the singular, we have I, you, he, she, it, and in the plural, we have we, you, they. Anyone notice anything weird about this paradigm? You. You's the weird one, right? It's on both sides. It's like, what? Can we come up with a different word for that? It's like, well, actually, we didn't come up with a different word. We got rid of a word. So where did it go in the chart? Where does thou go? Second person singular. It's the singular form. The way back, this is now, okay, this is not really Old English. This is the way the paradigm worked in Old English with modern English words substituted in. I didn't change them to the Old English words so that you would be able to recognize them. But so that's the way the system worked in Old English. The word thou, which was thu in Old English, was the second person singular, and you was always the second person plural. So I don't have a slide here about all the other languages of Europe, but this is very, very common in European languages that the word for the second person plural normally, not always, but migrated over to be a formal second person singular. I think I have that here. There we go. So this is a European thing that the plural form became a formal way of addressing in the second person. So French has this. You can say vous is the second person plural, vous, and tu is the second person singular. So I can say comment t'appelles-tu, which is what is your name, and that's, I would only say that to someone. It was a really weird thing to say, actually, comment t'appelles-tu, asking someone what their name is using the familiar. Because if you don't know their name, why would you use a familiar form of address? And the formal form, comment vous appelez-vous, you would use for one person using the plural form because it's more polite. And this is finally in Europe starting to shift, and people are questioning treating people more formally because there's more egalitarianism. English, for some reason, went through this shift into a more egalitarian pronoun system way earlier than all of the other European languages do. It made the shift in the 1600s, around the time of Cromwell revolutions and all that kind of stuff, very, very early. And as a result, the thou form, the informal, what the middle class, when they arose in the 1600s in England, just decided, well, we can't refer to our superiors in the informal. But we don't want to isolate our customers who are below us by using a different form, so they just started using the formal form for everyone. And they just basically got rid of the informal. You'll still find it in farming communities in Yorkshire. They still say thou all the time. And in this part of the world, maybe a little bit further east, you'll find the Quaker Society of Friends. They tend to still use, although they use them in a weird, different way that they've developed. Anyways, so King James usage is different because it's a translation of two other languages that have completely different systems. And so what the King James translators decided to do was not anything that was being done in English around them. They decided to stick with the Hebrew and Greek and use the thou form, the informal singular forms to translate singular forms in the Greek and Hebrew, and the you form, the plural form, to translate plural forms. And they just, because Greek and Hebrew don't have this formal use for the singular thing, they don't do that. So they just decided to stick with the direct equivalence of singular plural, so that when you're reading the King James Version, you can immediately know whether the pronouns in the Hebrew and Greek are singular or plural, which is really kind of handy. And I use this all the time. It's like, oh, is that plural or singular? Well, let's look in the King James Version and find out, because it's right there in front of you. So if you know that, it's a really useful tool and helpful. If you don't know, then you don't know, and you never know. So not helpful. So let's look at some examples here. I found some verses, well, I found one verse where it has both. So this is the King James Version. Until thy brother's anger turn away from thee, and he forget that which thou hast done to him, then I will send and fetch thee from thence. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day? So you can see it switches from the singular, which I put in yellow, to the plural, which I put in red. But you notice I underlined the word both, because even in the King James Version, they throw in this word both to make it absolutely clear that suddenly it's switching to plural. So actually, you don't need it. So here's the ESV. Until your brother's anger turns away from you and he forgets what you have done to him, then I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereft of you both in one day? And the distinction is still clear because they use the word both. Do you have trouble understanding this when you read it? Is it unclear when one person is being spoken to and two people are being spoken to? Are you confused? No. And the funny thing is, of course, this is how we normally speak. And we're not confused. Right now, we have ways of getting around. Does anyone know any techniques that we use when it comes to using you for plural? Y'alls, use guys, you'ns, yos. We have all sorts of ways to do it, which is funny, because you is the traditional plural, right? But it's the you that we change to make plural. This is how languages change. So we go from having a completely different word for the singular to having to change the plural word because now they're the same. But we do just fine, right? I mean, it's fun more than anything sometimes when it gets confusing. And this is a really weird thing about language. I love this thing about language, but we won't get into any detail because I could spend an hour on it. Informal English fixes formal English. Informal English fixes formal English. Formal English is the one that's all messed up with all the weird, unsensible, is that a word? Nonsensical things in it. And I just did it right there. And informally, we fix those things. We get rid of the nonsensical stuff. We add things like y'all, which is not ever considered formal English. But man, does it make sense to say that, right? And that's what we do. That's what we do. We get our good, solid sense of how to speak our language schooled out of us when we get a formal education and we start speaking nonsensically because that's the way you have to talk. It doesn't help. All right. So let's just take a look at a comparison now. 3 different levels of English. We have the Middle English, which is this is Wycliffe time period. Pre-King James Version, we had the thou, thee, thy, which was the informal singular, and the you, your, which was the former singular and plural. So I have the 3 cases there, subject, object, and possessive. Thou, thee, thy, ye, you, your. And the King James English, totally different system, went to thou, thee, thy for singular, and you, ye, you, your for plural, echoing the biblical languages. And then we have Christadelphian English. Now, I'm not talking about reading the Bible here. I'm talking about what? When do we use this language? When we pray. And this is how we understand it. Thou, thee, thy refers to God. And you, your is everyone else. And it's used for the singular and the plural. This is not anything in English. It does not exist. Right? It is not modern English, it is not Middle English, it is not King James Version English, it is our own made-up language. There is no reason ever to make thee, thou, and thy exclusively in reference to God. That is not scriptural, it is not English, it is nothing, we just made it up for the way we pray in our community. To put it simply, it's nonsense. But we love it, right? How many people have felt that if they didn't say thee, thou, or thy when they were praying to God, that they were being disrespectful? Has anyone ever felt that? We're past that now. Good. All right? Because it's nonsense. It's not real. We just made it up. And I know I've talked to many people that they just can't stop. Right? Oh, I can't say you to God. But it's nothing. It's in your own mind if you do it. You made it up because there's nothing to support it. And traditionally, historically, thee, thou, and thy were the informal, familiar forms. They're not respectful at all. They were the opposite of respectful. They were, in fact, to many people at the time, they would have been disrespectful. If someone from the Middle Ages heard you praying to God, thee, thou, and thy, they would be horrified that you would say such a thing to God. Right? And it's because the King James Version uses them for singular, and God is one, that we associate thee, thou, and thy with the one God. But it's not exclusively used. And we just showed an example in the Bible where thee, thou, and thy were used simply for singular, not just for God. So it's just a misunderstanding of Scripture that has crept into our community. And fortunately now, we're getting out of it because I mean, how confusing is that for people who are coming in from the outside and don't speak English as their first language, right? Why do you guys say thou when you pray to God? Is that some part of English I don't know? No, it's not. We just made it up. All right, I'm flying through my material here. So, it's great. Let's talk about jargon. This is a definition of jargon. I don't know if I wrote it or I got it from somewhere. Special words or expressions that are used by a particular profession or group and are difficult for others to understand. We've all heard of this, right? I mean, everybody out there has a career that has jargon, right? Give me an example of some jargon from your world, your career world.
Orthopedics, medical.
All right, what's an example? Throw me something out.
It's lateral, inferior, collateral, posterior, anterior, superior.
Right, yep. They all have very specific meanings. What you got?
Case the route. Case the route.
Case the route. Postal delivery, right? All right, how about dog? All right, Andrew.
WYSIWYG.
That's all WYSIWYG to me. What does it mean?
What you see is what you get.
There we go.
Debits and credits.
Debits and credits. Oh, man. This is fun.
First in, first out.
First to FIFO. In my career as a learning center, what am I now? I'm now called a senior learning center. I can't remember what my title is at work now. I mostly work, of course, with English, go figure. And one time I had a student book me for a session, and they had to like book me under English. And it's like, okay, what do you need help with? And they're like, finance, accounting. I don't think you were supposed to book me for that. And it's like, all right, well, let's see what I can do. What do you need help with? And they didn't understand the difference between debits and credits. So, okay, well, I can do that because that's just English. So you never know. I think someone back there, was it Brian, had your hand up? Chamomile assets? I think that's what I said, isn't it? Cameluminescence. Did I get it? I have no idea. What language is that? No, I mean, what jargon language? A physics measurement principle. Excellent. Great. I think someone over here had their hand up. Megan, right?
Yes, Megan. So I'm an ultrasound tech, and we talk in all sorts of jargon. So hyperechoic, anechoic, homogeneous, heterogeneous, reverberation artifact. Like you read one of our reports, and it reads like it's a different language.
Yeah, I used to do similar stuff, and we use the word artifact all the time. It's like, oh man, there's a lot of artifact. Actually, I was just looking at an article about they were putting a full EEG cap on someone and comparing their handwriting versus computer writing to see which one activated more parts of their brain. And I'm like, man, if you're getting people to do handwriting when they're on an EEG, you're going to get a lot of artifact, right? Jargon. Great. I think everyone's favorite ultrasound jargon is goo. We have 4 different kinds of goo. All right, so yeah, jargon is a thing, and jargon actually serves a purpose. It always served a purpose. This ivory tower is what we call in academics the ivory tower. Imagine a tower built of pure ivory. What would be the purpose of an ivory tower? It's a defense mechanism, because ivory is very difficult to climb. Right? It keeps people out. And the whole concept of the ivory tower in academics was to keep people out. We use jargon to control, to separate, to keep people out, so that they don't understand what we're talking about. They would have to go through years of schooling. What's his name? The Jewish American political pundit. What's his name?
Mark Twain
The guy his wife is a doctor. Ben Shapiro. He was doing questions and answers with someone. You know, he gets all the hard left wingers trying to challenge him, and this kid comes up to the microphone and he says, "You've been talking a lot about sociology. Do you have a degree in that? What is your credibility? How are you an expert in sociology?" And Ben Shapiro said, "I can read." All right, we use the jargon in our fields to keep people out. If you don't have the training, if you don't know all the words, you can't practice. Right? And we do this in the medical field. I can tell you stories. I work with students, and the primary tool that we use in my office, what do you think it is? What do you think the most important piece of equipment in my office is to help people learn language? Something I've been making a lot of use of lately. It's the tissue box. That is my most important piece of equipment. Use it all the time, right? I'll tell you stories, and it's like, get your tissues out. I had a woman, she came in, and she's from Turkey, and we were talking about what her situation was, what she needed help with, and she told me that she was in the optician program. And she was doing her practicum in optics. With optician, that means selling eyeglasses, right? So that was what she was doing in her college program. And she was having trouble because all of the people that worked in her optician store that it was franchised. So all the people that worked there were all from the same country, which is not her country, a different country. I'm not going to name any names, but they were not very welcoming of her. Basically, they treated her like garbage, and she was really upset about it, and she didn't know what to do. And they were like basically making her fetch coffee and things like that, and telling her that she didn't know anything about vision or eyes, and she could only be given the most basic tasks. So I asked her, I said, "What did you do before you came to Canada?" She was a laser eye surgeon. She'd done over 200 laser eye surgeries. And now she was being treated like, you don't know anything about eyes. She could run rings around these people, opticians, from a laser eye surgeon. It's tear-jerking, isn't it? That's how she was treated. What's the difference? Why? Why isn't she working as a laser eye surgeon in Canada right now? And what does that require? What does she need to get her license? She needs English, right? Her English isn't good enough. And this is a barrier for countless people who are coming to a new country. And I mean, this is what I deal with every day. This is what they go through. And I ask them, I said, "Are you staying or are you visiting?" And they say, "I hope to stay." And I say, "What would stop you? What would make you give up and go back?" Right? And a lot of the people I'm dealing with are from Iran. a lot of ladies from Iran, and they're not wearing hijab when I meet with them, and I ask them, when did you take it off? You know what they tell me? The second the wheels left the ground.
Yeah.
Right? They don't want to go back. But what's the number one barrier? What is the one thing that they feel if they can't accomplish it, they're going to go back? Learn English. And it's really super hard for adults to learn a new language. Super, super hard. So what are we talking about? We're talking about barriers. We're talking about what makes it hard for someone to come to a new place and become part of that new community and feeling qualified and like they're part of it. And I know I'm using examples from the work world, from our careers, but really it's all about how are we different? How are we more welcoming than imagine the struggles that they're going through in their new country. And people here have been through similar things, I'm sure. And you come to a new country and the culture is different, the language is different, everything is different, and everything is hard. And you're not doing what you did. We have surgeons driving cabs, right? And you can't make the money that you used to make. You've given up everything, lost everything you had. One of the brothers that came to our meeting from Iran, him and his partner owned a computer store, and he had to leave Iran. He was one of the first Christadelphians baptized in Iran, and one of his friends was kidnapped from his home and taken away and tortured, and they had to leave. Everyone that knew him had to leave because if under torture he gave up their names, they were next. So they ran, and just overnight, it's like, we got to go, and they were gone, and they left everything. And he left his entire computer shop and lost everything to his partner, who just took it, and off he went. And when he came to Canada, a really funny thing happened. I think I have lots of time to talk about these nice stories. I was at work, and my colleague, this is kind of funny, I was standing in the window while I was working, and he said, hey, look at this. There's 3 guys out there working on the driveway. 2 of them are working. The other guy's just standing there leaning on a shovel. Right. And which, that sounds familiar. One of us is working. The other one's just standing there looking out the window. So I went over to the window to look and see this phenomenon. And there's a famous commercial of this one woman working away on her computer, and all her colleagues are standing there drinking coffee, looking out the window. Anyway, same story. So I walked over and looked out, and I said, oh, the guy leaning on the shovel, the reason why he's not working is because he's the dump truck driver. And my friend looks at me and goes, how do you know he's the dump truck driver? How can you tell that just by looking at the window? He says, because I know him. And I went outside. It was our brother. He was a dump truck driver. So he had done everything he could to get his licenses, and going through the dump truck driver licensing is a lot of licenses you got to get. And he got himself a career as a truck driver and rebuilt his entire life. Computer store owner to dump truck driver. Nothing wrong with, he probably made more money as a dump truck driver than running a computer store, but he had to rebuild his entire life. Why? Language, right? Different language. All right. So we have our own jargon. And I'm not picking on any of these words, nothing wrong with them, but how do they come across to someone coming in from the outside? Do they understand them? They have to learn an entire new vocabulary just to be part of our community. They're already learning English. They're already learning the jargon that they need for their professions, their careers, and they have to learn our jargon as well. Is that helpful? I'm not saying nothing, all this week, nothing, I'm not saying anything is right or wrong, right? Is it true? Is it helpful? Just some things to think about, the way that we do things, and how we can make people feel more comfortable and more at home, how we can build up. I want to talk about that a lot tonight, building up versus creating barriers, right? Communication is a huge, huge part of how people feel welcome. So some of these terms, and these are some of the harmless ones, has anyone ever heard, we use this word interested friends, which is nice, I guess. It's kind of, although there's no reason to do this, right? I was taught at a very young age that you do not get up and say, brothers and sisters and friends.
Right.
Because it's like, aren't your brothers and sisters your friends? Right? I mean, that's the easy part of it. The bad part of it is that you're separating a group of people out as not being fully part of the group. And then we treat them like that in many ways, not just with our language. How about, anyone ever heard a person, a chair of a session, get up and say, we also welcome our strangers? I've heard it. Like, what? Why would you call them strangers to their face? That's awful. And then sometimes even aliens. There's their words from the verse, right? We have some aliens here. It's like, whoa, man. We had this brother, very enthusiastic brother, at a meeting I belonged to when I was a kid, and we'd have these public lectures, and then we would try to form a human wall between this brother and the people that had come in. It's like, try to distract him so he doesn't get to them. Because he'd go up to them and he'd just launch into them in like really strongly accented English. He was from Wales. And well, what'd you think of that? Wasn't that great? So I was like, oh, just let them breathe. Just launched into them. So how about, everyone loved the sister-wife thing?
Yeah, right.
Any what is it? Husband brothers? Brother husbands? Has any sister here ever introduced their significant other as their brother husband to someone? No? Really? Because you would think if there's a sister wife, there has to be a brother husband. And another thing I noticed when I was doing this, recording brother, that's not just Christadelphian jargon. That's, I don't know what the range is, Canadian Christadelphian jargon, right? Everyone, what do you got? What do you call the person who runs your board at your meeting?
Board president.
Yeah, or elder.
Elder? How about over here? Anyone have a different term? Recording sister. Oh, there you go. You're talking about barriers. I wasn't going to go there. Anyone use? Yeah, ranging brethren. That's the whole board. Yeah.
We don't like some terms because other churches use them. So
Yeah.
we don't like them.
So we create our own language
Right.
to be more exclusive and less welcome, right? Because, we don't want to sound like other Christian denominations. All right. So is it helpful? All right. Does it bring people in? Does it make people feel comfortable at home? Does it bring people to Jesus? Does it bring people to God? Is that our goal? Is our goal to bring people to Jesus or to bring people to us? Where are we calling people to? What is the journey we're helping them along on, right? So 1 Corinthians 10, verse 23, we're reminded of this verse, all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful, but not all things build up. They might not be wrong to do, but they might not be helpful to do. And it's time for break. So back in 13 minutes, sorry for taking 2 minutes, and with Peter.